Our Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas is among the officials speaking out in the wake of Saturday's mass shooting in Buffalo. He said in a statement that, quote, the Department of Homeland Security continues to work closely with our partners across the country to combat violent extremism, including racially or ethnically motivated violent extremism, which continues to pose one of the most significant terrorism-related threats to the homeland. We are devoting every available resource to combat all forms of terrorism and targeted violence to keep our communities safe and secure. With us this morning, Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being with us this morning. What is your department doing to fight domestic terrorism?
Jose, we are doing so very much in this priority area of ours. And I do want to first comment on something you said earlier in the program. You spoke of the victims in Buffalo and their insurmountable pain. And I think that was so poignantly and powerfully articulated. We share in their pain. Our hearts break for the victims of this senseless tragedy. We are executing on the president's national strategy to combat domestic terrorism. For the first time, our Department of Homeland Security identified domestic violent extremism as a national priority area. We are spreading information out to our state, local, tribal, territorial partners, our frontline personnel in every community across this country so they understand the threat landscape and can respond appropriately. We are dedicating grant funds to fight domestic violent extremism. The connection between ideologies of hate, false narratives, and acts of violence. We set up the Center for Prevention Programs in partnership to resource, equip, and empower local communities. You know, so often it is the family member, the neighbor, the teacher, the faith leader who sees someone descending downward into a path of violence because of an ideology that they have gripped. And we need those individuals to know whom to call, whom to contact, to reach out to local law enforcement before it's too late, to help that individual and to really protect and safeguard the community.
Yeah, I want to turn now to Title 42, which, as you know, has been being used for more than 2 years. It was a Trump-era creation to block 1.8 million migrants from entering the U.S. and having their asylum cases heard. I was in Eagle Pass, Texas on Friday. I spoke with elected officials, all Democrats, who don't want to see Title 42 lifted. Here's, Secretary, some of what they had to say.
We have been privy to a number of videos and a number of information that shows that there's over 100,000 migrants just ready for Title 42 to end. We don't have the resources and we don't have the manpower to be able to handle that.
Whoever is going to be making decisions right now, I wish that they were here to see what we're having to face. If you're not in the trenches, it's very easy to make decisions from far away. But I wish it shouldn't. It can't. I hope they keep that in mind. It cannot be lifted.
You know, those folks don't believe the administration is ready to deal with all these migrants. I know you're headed to the border tomorrow. What are you going to tell them?
So I will tell them exactly what I've said before. First of all, it's very important to understand that Title 42 is not an immigration policy. It is not an authority that the Department of Homeland Security holds, but rather it is a public health authority in the hands of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. And the CDC has made its independent public health determination that where we are in the arc of the COVID-19 pandemic no longer justifies, as of May 23rd, next week, no longer justifies the use of Title 42. So they make that decision, and then we have to respond accordingly. And it's not as though we're responding just now, because we've known for quite some time that Title 42 is not going to be around forever. And quite frankly, we wouldn't want it to be, because we want the pandemic behind us. So back in September of last year, we started to plan and prepare for the eventual end of the CDC's use of Title 42. And that is, in fact, what we have done. And I am going to go down to McAllen, Texas tomorrow It's my, I think, 9th or 10th visit to the border, and explain to local officials exactly what our plans and preparations involve. And they involve not just working alone, but working across the federal government with all our resources, and very importantly, Jose, working with our partners to the south, working with Mexico. I was in Panama just a few weeks ago, Costa Rica before then, because we need our partners to the south to manage their borders as well. The migration that the United States is encountering is not an issue exclusive to the United States. It's a regional challenge and requires a regional solution. Colombia right now has more than 1.8 million Venezuelans within its borders. I was there in Costa Rica and hearing from local officials and federal leaders there in Costa Rica about the number of Nicaraguans whom they are encountering.
Yeah, I mean, and Secretary, I mean, I'm just wondering, like, it seems as though immigration policy is so ad hoc in so many ways. For example, if someone from Cuba or Haiti sets out in a raft heading for the U.S., they're found, they're automatically deported, right? Just last week, 11 Haitians died when their boat capsized near Puerto Rico. But if a person pays the Cuban government, and they're saying $5,000, that's what the people that just left Cuba told me, $5,000 for an air flight to go to Nicaragua. And then there they have to pay the people there to get into Mexico, pay the cartels in order to get to the border with the U.S. Those people, if they cross, for the most part, they can stay. If you're Ukrainian and you get in, you can stay. If you're Guatemalan or Honduran or from Africa, you're just deported immediately. Is there any understandable policy that's in place?
So I have to say three things, Jose. First of all, different countries have different laws. But importantly, you mentioned about the tragedy of people taking to the seas, a number of Haitians having lost their lives at sea. That is exactly why we communicate time and time again, not just through my voice, but on social media, on outlets in the countries of origin. Do not take the dangerous journey, because what could happen is exactly what did happen last week. People lost their lives. But fundamentally, Jose, you refer to things as ad hoc. Fundamentally, we need Congress to pass legislation that fixes what everyone agrees is a broken immigration system.
Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for answering our questions, and I look forward to continuing our conversation. Thank you.
As do I. Thank you.